Hello, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. This is Lucas Rashevsky, and we are on week number 1, winter Q&A. So this is going to be a little bit different if you've been in the previous classes. So we got some feedback that more interaction, more questions live versus written down. So you're going to hear more people's voices, which is going to be awesome. Thank you guys for being here. I know it's the first one, so it's still getting into your schedules. But yeah, we're gonna go through this. We have more students than ever. We have people previously attending, going through the course as well. So in the interest of time, I'm going to do my best to keep these answers short and to the point and actionable. Like I talked about, the questions are focused on not necessarily getting philosophical about the content, but answering your questions, getting you on the right track, and to be fairly honest, making sure that I'm not doing the work for you and instead helping you learn and do the work for yourself. So that's the intent here. And it's going to be a good hour. It's going to be fun. And let's see who we have attending. Brian Mead, Brittany Johnson, Charlie Wallace, Edie, Grace, James, Jason, Laura, Michael, and Mary. Awesome. And I don't see somebody else joined. Might be in here. Thank you guys for being here live. I appreciate that. For those of you who are listening to the replay, we're going to go down in order on what was written down on the thread, and then we're going to start answering live questions for people on the call. It's just easier that way. And because most people posted their questions on here anyway that I see on here live. So live people, quick checks. Can you hear me? And right now I'm not showing the screen, but I'm going to hop that on real quick. All right, can you see the screen? Should be the Facebook thread. Awesome, cool. All right. Okay, so we are going to be answering these questions. If I need to pull you on live or if you need to ask more follow-ups, we can definitely do that. Sometimes I don't see the people on here, so we'll just kind of blow right on through. But if you have clarification questions, if you have questions that jump off of somebody else's question, go ahead and post them in the chat, and then I'll probably bring you guys on live to discuss those. So as you're going through these, definitely pay attention, even if it's not your question, because a lot of you guys have very similar questions that are going to be answered again and again just due to the repetitive nature of these modules. So, module 1, everybody's going through the same thing. Everybody's asking the same questions about target market and primal desire and things like that. So every answer is going to give you a better insight into how that works in practice, because you guys are learning the principles at a high level, but implementing those into practice is the difficult part. That's why most people don't do it. So let's go through and start that. First one first. Francisco, your questions were, would you like some deeper, okay, so you want some deeper examples of headlines on different levels of different levels and market awareness. Okay, so I'm guessing you just want headline suggestions for market awareness and kind of different types there. So let me go through all these questions and then go back up to the first one. How much physiography? I'm guessing you meant, crap, I blanked on the word. How did I blank on the word? Demographics and somebody help me out. Psychographics. Psychographics. Research is enough research, and how do you feel that you know more than the market when you start seeing trends, feeling missing a lot of research, trying to go deeper, but every time thrown into a tailspin, feel the info is not relevant to the market. Demographic is relatively easy these days. Okay, yeah, we can talk about that for sure. How to put the 4 pillars together in the copy. Okay, that's not going to be the answer you expect it to be. How to craft and identify a hook. Not the best, that's just a test. Okay. How to use the 6 core needs. They think that they're significant. Target the ones that don't. Okay, yeah, these are all really good questions and good clarifications. So let me jump back up to your very first question and start demonstrating some types of headlines. So here's the thing. a headline is going to be a combination of all of the big four pieces. It's not going to be specific to a level of awareness or sophistication. It's going to be all of them. So the headline has three jobs. It has to capture attention, interest, and then intrigue the person to continue reading. And ideally, your entire lead does that, captures attention and intrigue, and interest, and then intrigues them. But psychologically speaking, you have less than half a second to capture someone's attention if they are exposed to your ad in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a billboard or on a Facebook news feed or in the mailbox. So you have half a second to capture their attention. Then, once you've captured their attention, you have 7 seconds, give or take, to capture their interest. So attention is first, and then interest is second. Then, after that 7 seconds of interest, if you manage to capture their interest, you've got about 30 seconds to capture their intrigue, I call it. It's not the most grammatically correct, and you guys are going to hear road noise. I apologize for that. My office is right above one of the big roads here in LA, so gotta deal with that sometimes. So when you're intriguing the client, you've got about 30 seconds or so to intrigue them to continue to read further. Now, all that doesn't have to occur in your headline, but it does have to occur in the first 30 seconds of your ad, which is usually your first 3 or 4 lines, or your headline, your subhead, and the first couple of sentences of your lead, things like that. So we're going to be talking a lot about that because fixing your headline and fixing your lead can cause exponential increases in your copy. Now, let's go back to the first question, deeper examples of headlines on different levels. So when you're looking at your headline, you start with your target market and your understanding of them. So this is easier if I have an example. Somebody give me an example of a target market somewhere in the chat. And Francisco, are you on here live? I think yes, you are. Okay. I can't connect. You're not connected to audio, so I can't bring you on live. Somebody else is going to have to knock this out in the questions box. But somebody give me a target market and a product real quick, and we're going to start diving down into a assumption for that target market so we can start looking at headline examples. Because I can't just give you examples off the top of my head. I have to understand the big four research, because otherwise it's just bullshit. If I say this headline is going to work and you go out and try it and it doesn't work, well, it's because the big four were not in place behind the headline. The headline itself is a product of the big four, not the other way around. All right, let's see. Deborah says, selling a funnel system to a marketer. Okay, cool. So the target market is going to be a marketer. I'm assuming you mean an online marketer, and so someone who is not necessarily classically trained, doesn't have an MBA, maybe didn't even go to college, someone who considers himself an online marketer. That person typically 90% of the time has an income of less than $30,000 per year, less than $40,000 per year, depending on where you're at. They've bought courses before. Usually they've bought smaller courses. They've done some marketing. Very small subsegment of that market is actually executed on the things that they've learned. They understand terms like affiliate marketing, all that kind of stuff. So right now we're looking at the demographic and psychographic data of this target market. Demographically speaking, they're probably between the ages of 30 and 45, even though that's really broad. Many of them are men, but there's a very, very large subsegment of women. Those women tend to be more professional and or working moms or stay-at-home moms or something like that. So you can see now here where just at the target market, Cisco, we're running into a problem where a headline would be completely divergent from who we need to talk to. If I told you to say, hey, online marketers, or something like that to grab their attention, they may not consider themselves to be an online marketer. Maybe they consider themselves to be an entrepreneur. Maybe they consider themselves to be a business owner. Maybe they consider themselves to be a work-at-home mom, or a digital nomad, or a lifestyle guru, or something like that. Like, online marketer is not an egoic term that they can grab. So we're looking for that target market. We're digging down deeper. If we dig down into the, let's call it stay-at-home mom market. I don't write too often for this market, so I'm not super familiar with it, but stay-at-home moms are typically between the ages of 25 and 36. They're raising young kids. They are a part of the millennial generation. They are sometimes single, but sometimes they have work as well, but they're looking to, or a husband as well, or a partner, and they're looking to make a little extra income in between their hectic schedules of raising kids, sometimes multiple children. And so their needs are going to be time-based, they're going to be flexibility-based, they're going to be speed-based. They don't want to spend a lot of time and energy working on something for a long period of time if it's not going to pay off. And they have a sloth focus, if we're going down into primal desires, simply because they're already too busy to deal with more crap. That's one of the major objections in that marketplace. And so it's not sloth in the sense that they're lazy, but it's sloth in the sense that one of their primal drivers is for buying a product that helps them is going to be that it's easy. And then we're kind of working our way through there. So if that is the marketer we're looking at, the type of marketer who wants to create an online business because she's a work-at-home mom, that's our target demographic and our target psychographic. Now we got to start looking at who she's following. Does she follow Marie Forleo? Does she follow, I'm blanking on names of female marketers, but there's like Amy Porterfield, things like that. So now we're starting to look at the psychographics of her marketplace. I'm not going to go super deep into this because it's just the first question of very many, but now we're looking at her psychographics. We're looking at her primal desires. What are those desires? Does she feel the need for easy solutions, which would be a sloth-based thing? Does she feel the need for extra income because she wants to achieve? Maybe not. I'm just assuming in that particular marketplace that ambition and achievement are probably something that they care about, but not to the extent of other things. That could be obviously verified by research if we need to. I could be completely off. We're working on the primal fears. What do they truly fear? Okay, well, obviously they care about their child, they care about the health of their child, but if they're in a relationship, they also probably care about the relationship and the stress that's on the relationship due to the child. They probably care about their ability to make income, either to purchase things for themselves. Maybe they're in a situation where the husband only makes enough to get by. So there's that scarcity, there's that survivalistic mentality, all of that kind of stuff going into the primal fear of, okay, what happens if this doesn't work? What happens if it does? You know, how is it going to help me if it does? That's those sort of questions. And then we get into the core needs. And a lot of people ask questions about core needs, and so I'm going to answer your number 5 question at the same time. The core needs are always met, always. So at least the first 4 are, not the last 2, but the first 4 will always be met by something. So it's not as if you're going to, help them meet one of those needs. It's already met by something. The question is, how healthy is that, and how productive is that need being met? Because when somebody has a need for significance or certainty or variety or love and connection, being the 4 core needs, behind obviously growth and contribution, they're getting those met somehow. And so we can talk about that in terms of the same target market we chose. How are they meeting their need for significance? Well, I would imagine that they feel significant due to being a mother. They're raising a child, which puts them in a position of authority, even though it's very servant-based authority. And so they're getting a certain amount of significance there, but they also might have an unhealthy amount or an unhealthy aspect to the significance where their spouse is drifting away from them, or everything is super stressed and they don't feel in control, so they don't feel significant that way. And you're starting to realize, okay, this is what is driving this person emotionally. This is what's driving this person to do these things, especially in the frantic, stressed out mindset that most people are. Stressed people tend to buy more stuff, just in general, because buying the thing is a solution that they can immediately enact versus doing other things that don't have an immediate impact. That's why a lot of diet pills are bought by, stressed out moms, or, a lot of investment advice is bought by stressed out office workers who care about their retirement but don't have time to do it themselves. Things like that. So stress is a big driver. And when we understand that the 4 core needs of certainty, variety, love, and significance, or love and connection, and the other one, I'm blanking on it right now. Those are always met, which means that if your product is challenging one of those needs, then you have to realize that you're asking that person to rip out a piece of their life. Even though it's unhealthy, you're asking them to rip that out. And I use the term rip very seriously because it is a pillar of their life, despite how unhealthy it is. And when your product challenges that, it must immediately replace that core need for them in a very real, tangible way for them. So if the significance factor of a stay-at-home mom is tied into her family, but also her partner or her friends somehow viewing her in a certain way, then you need to basically say, look, this product is not going to overwhelm you, number one, but it's also going to put you in a place where you have an advantage. You're seen as more successful. It turns you into supermom because not only are you running a business from your kitchen table, but you're being a mom to 1 or 2 or 3 kids. That sort of thing. You're showing them that their level of significance is not being challenged. And that's part of it. So, Cisco, you're on here. Does that make sense based on number 1 and number 2? Because, like I said, it's a little harder for me to teach you headline without understanding the information. We're going to get deeper into this once people understand the Big Four a little better. So headlines and how I would suggest to write certain things, and when we get into the hot seats, you're going to see a lot of that. But for now, let's stay away from headlines and focus on deeply understanding the Big Four, okay? Cool. So how much is enough? So my rule of thumb, like you said in the second part of this question, is how do you feel, or like when you know more than the marketplace? Now, that assumes that you know your target market. So who are they? And the product that you're writing for, whatever that product happens to be, who are they and what does that product do? So the people who are looking for the solution, or they have a problem, or they have a desire based on the levels of awareness, how much do they actually know? Michael Masterson asks this question in his book Great Leads, where the question that every marketer should ask themselves, but really rarely does, is what does my customer already know? And so I shifted that and said, your research is done when you know more than your target market. Because when you're asking yourself, what does my customer already know, you're not going to be redundant, and you're not going to be something that they gloss over immediately, because you can reach them at the point where they already are versus copying everyone else with their crappy headlines that they've already seen before. So how do you know that? Well, you start to notice that your ideas for marketing are not the same as everybody else's. You start to notice that the marketplace is talking about a certain thing, but all of the marketing is talking about another thing. And you start to notice that people are having problems with the existing marketing or the existing solutions that are out there. And once you get that and you kind of understand and you've done enough research to get that in your head, you're going to start to see these things manifest. And you're going to be like, oh, okay, well, maybe internet marketers don't like getting on webinars right now. Or maybe stay-at-home moms are tired of all the pitchy stuff and they really just want a specific solution for them given what they want to do. And something to that effect. You're going to find that inside the research, but basically if you don't think you have it yet, if you're seeing a lot of the same things, then you need to keep going. That's the best rule of thumb, other than knowing more than the marketplace in terms of the knowledge. How to put the big 4 pillars together in the copy. That, like I said, is not going to be a question you think I would answer this way, but you don't. The big 4 is the foundation, right? It is the concrete and the hole that you dig before you build your house. So it's the concrete foundation and the size of the hole. The bigger the hole, the more concrete, the more foundation you lay down, the better and more strong and more permanent your copy is going to be, just in general. So The 4 pillars themselves are going to give you a ton of great ideas for leads and for headlines and for hooks and angles and all that kind of stuff, but the big 4 themselves are not what you put into your copy. So, for example, you're going to understand the target market, you're going to understand their demographics and psychographics data, you're going to understand their primal needs, desires, their core needs, their primal desire, and their primal fear. You're going to have all that. You're going to know the market's level of awareness. You're going to know the market's level of sophistication, and you're going to have all the data that you need to verify that. Once you've got all of that stuff, then you start to write, because you can write to the person that you're trying to sell this product to and intimately understand them. But the conversation you have with them comes from a place of understanding, not from a place of, you know, I wrote this list down and these are the things that you're supposed to respond to. That's why I edge away from using survey data in copy unless you're a really good copywriter, because most people just take survey data and throw it into the sales page and hope that it works. But without understanding the context of everything around it, as a good copywriter would, then it seems ham-handed, or it seems disingenuous. So when you're writing the copy, you're actually, at least with the first draft especially, you are pretending that you are sitting down in a chair next to your perfect target market avatar. You're sitting next to them. The chairs are kind of offset so that you can kind of lean over and you have to turn your head, and they're turning your head to you, and you're talking with them. And now, in that intimate conversation setting, what do you say to get their attention? What do you say to capture their interest? What do you say to continue to intrigue them and then lead them down this path of emotional and logical stuff in order to eventually be interested in your product and buy your product or take the action you want them to? That's the first draft. You're sitting in a chair talking to them. And then you go back through with a bunch of editing tools and you kind of like go, okay, how can I make this better? How does this argument sound? All that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, your knowledge of the target market is going to help you write better copy than knowing where to put each pillar in copywriting. Does that make sense, Cisco? Awesome. Cool. How to craft and identify a hook. We'll talk about that in quite a bit of detail later on in the modules, but like I said, it's hidden inside your Big Four research. And I already answered the last one with the first question. So thank you, Cisco. Those were great questions. We got to talk about a lot of this stuff. All right. Should get some audio so I can hear your voice. Oh, now you got some audio. Okay, well, next time, because I already answered all your questions. Cool. So Dan. Dan I don't think is on live for this one. So the question was, more examples of the identification headlines for completely unaware, especially leading into an unacceptable problem by starting with a universally accepted image. Okay, so a lot of the headline and identification stuff from this comes right out of Eugene Schwartz's Breakthrough Advertising. I've done a lot of modification of this entire course, but when it comes to talking about getting into a completely unaware market, Eugene had some really great insight into that. But one of those insights, Dan, was that there are many, many ways to break into a completely unaware marketplace, but there's only one chance to do that with that particular method. So if somebody has used a headline that is similar to leading into an unacceptable problem by starting with a universally accepted image, then in general, that area or that type of headline is not going to work anymore because it already exists in the marketing. People are using it, and it's changing people from completely unaware to desire aware, to level 4 awareness. So all of the people who were going to be captured by that particular headline are already moving or are going to be moving. In this world of internet marketing, there's a really good chance that your headline might be seen before someone who's a market leader if you're better at marketing or if you're better at paid traffic, but it's not a sustainable business strategy. To be like the same as someone else, but hopefully they find you first, is not a sustainable business strategy. So when we're looking at this, if you're leading into an unacceptable problem by starting with a universally accepted image, so that is going to first identify what a universally accepted image is. In society, everybody, or well, in society that you're in, that you currently live in, most people have these stereotypes, these ideas of what things should look like. Now, keep in mind, this is representative of your demographic data, of your psychographic data for your target market. This is not just like everything. So when you understand your target market, what is their universally accepted image? For example, let me show you the difference between the two. If I'm marketing a skincare product for women, and that skincare product is designed to take away wrinkles, it's an anti-aging cream, you know, it kind of youthens the face a little bit, then I know that my demographic data is going to be slightly older, someone who's dealing with a few wrinkles, or, you know, someone who's dealing with maybe bags under the eyes just for a genetic reason or whatever. But in general, the market for an anti-aging cream is going to be slightly older, not quite as old as you would think usually, but slightly older. And then now I have to look at who they are. A 35-year-old woman is not going to react to the advertising the same way a 45-year-old woman is, or a 55-year-old woman, because they have completely different life experiences. So a 35-year-old woman is on the edge of the millennial generation. She kind of feels as though, you know, a lot of the younger versions of her generation are completely different from her. So she's not going to respond to millennial-style advertising because she's positioned herself against those younger millennials. But she's also grown up in a world with a lot of social media, of the internet being invented, of being online all the time, and so she feels very native to that environment, which means that any talk about not feeling native to that environment is going to be beyond her level of understanding. So you don't bring up things like you know, whiteout on a typewriter in college, right? Because she never had to deal with those problems. So those are the things, and you start to kind of figure that out. What is the universally accepted image for this woman? Well, this 35-year-old woman who's interested in buying anti-aging cream to kind of deal with her new wrinkles that she's kind of noticing in the mirror every morning is probably going to be one where 35 is not old enough to have wrinkles. She is, you know, she's 35 years old, and she's getting them, and she hates it because, you know, in her mind she's still 24, and which is a secret. Most women are still 24 in their heads in terms of how they view themselves, and marketing wise, not a sexist thing. The idea there for that millennial woman is that she is in a state of disbelief or in a state of non-acceptance. So her universally accepted image is one where 35 is not old, and 35 should not have wrinkles, and 35 is a time for, you know, youthfulness and vibrance and all of that kind of stuff. That's her universally accepted image. So with that, then you lead into an unacceptable problem, which is basically having wrinkles in her case. Unacceptable problem because it conflicts or contrasts from her reality, her perceived reality, her universally accepted image. So with that said, that's how you lead into it. You start to identify who that person is and what they universally accept, and then you tie in what your product does to lead into that unacceptable problem. That would be an example for anti-aging. So it would be something like, and this is off the top of my head, so I'm always really bad at headlines off the top of my head, but something to the effect of unacceptable wrinkles starting to creep in. This cream makes them disappear immediately or within 24 hours. Something to that effect. That's very direct, obviously. Or in this case, with a completely unaware market, you could say a woman's face is forever. Or a woman's beauty is iconic, or a woman's, you know, like starting to do like this eternal kind of messaging where they want to eternally capture that youth. There's a lot of different ways to do this, like I said, and understanding all the big four stuff around it is going to lead you into better solutions than I can come up with off the top of my head. But that's the concept. There are other options for identification headlines of the completely unaware to kind of break into that market, a lot of them, but the deeper thing is to understand you can't use the same one twice or the same kind twice. So let's see. All right, so how I move through the big four. It's actually really simple. I start at the top and I work down, because I don't want to find out what the awareness of the marketplace is without first understanding the target market. And I don't really want to learn the sophistication without first knowing their primal desire. Because if I don't know their primal desire when I'm starting to look at competition, I'm going to start taking the competition's headlines as like what I should do rather than just kind of information. So start with the target market. Get really deep and specific on exactly who you're trying to target for this product. You're going to rapidly find out that there are multiple markets that you could sell to, and now you get to decide who's the best, who's the biggest, who's the most starving crowd, to use Gary Halbert's language. And that's kind of like your decision point at the target market phase. Once you've decided on that and you've gotten really deep on that demographic, psychographic data, then you go down to primal desire, primal fear, and core needs, and how those are being manifested with that particular target market. And then you go down to awareness. How do the different levels of awareness manifest themselves in the market? And then go down to sophistication once you understand awareness, because once you understand awareness and how different people are seeing the marketplace, you can see how most companies are not hitting the right levels of awareness with their marketing. Even though you can identify that, the market might be a level 3 sophistication, you can see how most of the companies there are only speaking to a level 2 stage of awareness because they're solution aware, but nobody is going after the people who have a problem, and they're not speaking to that particular audience, which means you have an opportunity. All these points, all these research points right here are opening up opportunities for you as a copywriter to go exploit, because that's going to be where you make the really big gains, by opening up new markets, by transforming the market into a new mechanism that you create, things like that. That's what big copywriters do. That's why A-listers get paid the big bucks. It's not necessarily because they're better writers, but because they're better scientists and forensic scientists to find what needs to be done in the marketplace. So, to answer your question, just go through the big four in order: target market, primal desires, awareness, and then sophistication, and verify each step. Cool. I don't think Dan's on the call, but that was the answer to Dan's questions. Brittany, I would love to see how you utilize the DDS in your marketplace and reflect in copy. Okay. Brittany, do you have a deep dive survey for your audience? I'm not going to bring up any of the deep dive surveys I have because that's client confidential data, but I can talk about them in general, unless you have a specific one. You guys are going to periodically hear my dogs, and the one is trying to jump up on me, so forgive the noises. So, hopefully Brittany's still listening. Looks like she's attentive. All right, stop. Okay, so, all right. So if you don't have one right now, then let's talk about them in general. So Ryan Levesque is an internet marketer, business marketing guy who, with Glenn Livingston, created a interesting way to perform surveys as lead generation, but also perform surveys as market research. So the market research side of things is known as the deep dive survey in his world. And that deep dive survey is essentially taking an audience, whether it's your email list or a cold traffic audience or a live event or something, and asking a question that basically says, what is your #1 single biggest challenge with X? And X would be either the thing that you are selling or the problem that you're solving or something like that. So what is your #1 single biggest challenge with X? Or a variation of that headline. There's different ways to vary, but you're specifically looking for the challenges and how they define them. The deep dive survey is really useful for, #1, getting people to tell you about what they think their challenges are, and it's really critical to understand it's what they think, not necessarily what are their challenges, as in the reason they're not getting the result, but what they think is the challenge that is causing them the result, or causing them to not get their result. So that deep dive survey goes out to them, they answer the question. There's also a little caveat there where when you send out that survey, 80% to 90% of the people who answer that survey are going to answer with a very short, specific answer that sounds very similar to one another. So if I sent that question to let's say coaches, right? I'm like, what is your number one single biggest challenge with getting leads as a coach? And I sent that out to 1,000 people, then I would probably get around, let's say all of them answered, I would probably get around 800 responses that said webinars or doing webinars or one-word answers, two-word answers, short one-sentence answers, things like that. And then there would be another 100 to 200 people who responded to that survey and just wrote me a novel on exactly what their biggest challenge was with getting leads. Most of the time, it's not going to be webinar related. It's going to be something else. Now, the reason that's important is because a deep dive survey allows you to see what your hyper-responsive audience is having problems with, rather than your less responsive audience. Even though 800 people said webinars, that's not a big problem for them because they only wrote one word about it. The 200 people who responded with a novel have a massive problem that they really need someone to help them with, and that's going to be better for business than it is to try and market to the 800 people who are kind of about whatever their problem is. That's the power of a deep dive survey. Now, when you do the deep dive survey, you're going to get a lot of data back, and there's a specific way Ryan teaches on how to categorize that data, on how valuable it is and how to rank it and all that kind of stuff. But when you take it and you look at it, you're going to basically analyze it from the context of this is this audience, meaning you put down target market, and this is not something Ryan teaches. This is something that I would teach based on being a coach for his stuff for over a year. Basically, when you get the DDS data, you have to first understand who the target market is that you're looking at. Who are they demographically, psychographically, and write all that stuff down so you have context. The more you can verify that, the better. Like if they're your email list, then you need to verify what they look like. If they're cold traffic, you can see the demographic data on whatever platform you're using usually, if it's Facebook or Google AdWords has it now. Write down your target market stuff, and so you understand who you're looking at. And then as you're going through the copy, write down some of the main words or phrases that they're using for the hyper-responsive answers. Write those down, and then right next to them, talk about like the first thing that pops into your head on why they're saying that. Like, why are they saying that? So if someone says, God, I'm just having trouble scaling my Facebook ads because I'm spending $100 a day, but as soon as I kicked it up to $100 a day, my cost per lead, tripled, and so it's not feasible anymore, and I don't know how to scale it, and I'm wasting money, I'm wasting time, and so then you write that down. Okay, scaling Facebook ads, wasting time, wasting money, can't scale past 100. Let's see. What does that mean? Well, it means this person is growth oriented. It means this person wants to grow and they want to achieve, but they're at a point now where they're literally technologically stuck because something's not working right. They're pressing a button and it's not working. So what is that? That's frustrating. What does that frustration come from? Where, like, does the frustration come from a want to grow quickly? Does it come from a frustration to like an urgency to scale, or does it come from a fear of not being able to use this, or like a fear that something's going to happen to it, a fear of loss or something like that? You start writing down those things based on what people were saying, and as you go through the rest of the answers, you're going to start noticing common themes. The major common theme is going to be your primal desire and primal fear inside the deep dive survey data. Most people never do that. They just look at the responses and pull out keywords or pull out key phrases and throw them into the copy. But what you really need to do with the deep dive survey is go through and pick out the reasons why people are saying certain things, because that's their deeper emotional reason. That will help you understand them better and write better copy and write better stories, because otherwise you're just telling them what they told you, and that's good enough for a specific way of doing things, but not necessarily for a person who has no experience with copywriting or building the full system of a survey funnel. And then you keep going. So you can also get awareness data from your target market. You can say this segment of my target market was very aware, which is what they were talking about here, and this is how they manifested that awareness, and I can prove that. And then you can go to sophistication. What are they talking about? Who are they talking about? What types of competitors? What types of products? Because that's going to show you, basically what those competitors are doing and how they're talking to people. Does that make sense, Brittany? Check, check. Okay, cool. No worries. All right, let's move on. Do you have any questions about that? could probably bring you on live if you want to hop on. No? No questions? Okay, cool. Awesome. Brian, for focusing an emotion and giving it a goal, once you determine the primal emotion or desire, what do you mean by giving it a goal? Start explaining the idea behind your product, or then direct someone's attention to your solution. Okay, so all of this right here is not something that I would tell you to do one way or the other, because it's all dependent on your research, the market, and the angle you're going with your copy. So I'm never going to tell you that once you understand their primal desire, you immediately have to explain the idea behind your product, or you have to launch into a solution or whatever. That's not how I teach, and that's not how you should write copy. What the biggest thing that I want to impress upon you guys in this course is that copy is not formulaic. Writing good copy is not formulaic. You're not going to find good copy that was written based on a template. Usually, the people selling the templates created the template based on something that they made from scratch that worked really well for them, and then they decided to sell the template to a bunch of freelancers and a bunch of copywriters who didn't want to do the work. Go look at my sales letter for this course. Go look at really good sales letters and really good videos that kind of made their marketplaces. All of them do not sound like anything else. They're brand new. And you start seeing diminishing returns over time by the people who copy those templates and push them forward. I'm not harping on you specifically, Brian. This is something that happens with the entire industry, because everybody would rather buy the perfect, super template and never do any of the work than they would actually want to dig deep and really figure it out. So I'm not going to explain this, because as you'll find out in the rest of the course, it's very, very dependent on everything that I'm going to teach you. But when you're trying to give it a goal, like focusing an emotion and giving it a goal, it depends on the level of awareness. But basically what you're doing is let's say you're talking to a level 4 awareness. So you're talking to a desire-aware person. They don't have a problem yet. They're not looking for solutions, and they don't know about you, but they do have a desire to improve. What is that desire? What is that emotion? Well, if it's fat loss, then the person with a desire to improve sees themselves in the mirror every single day and kind of, understands that they are fat, but it's not a problem yet, and they haven't taken any action. So when they see themselves in the mirror and they understand how they look, there's got to be something that crystallizes that into their mind and turns it into a problem that they urgently need to solve. So if I'm sitting here looking at myself in the mirror as a potential fat loss prospect, and I'm looking at my body and I go, that does not look good, and I eventually want to do something about that, or I really need to start going to the gym, or blah, blah, blah. Like, that's the thoughts in my head. And I all of a sudden see an advertisement that says, if your body looks like this, then there is a 50% chance you're going to have a heart attack in the next 2 years. So pick your year or something. That type of headline is going to immediately capture my attention, because I didn't know I had a problem, but now the headline told me I had a problem, and it's a big freaking problem. And if that copy can prove that statement, which is pretty easy to prove through data and information and a little bit of research, then that is going to immediately take me out of my desire awareness and into that piece of copy. Because now I have a problem, it's crystallized in my head, I have a solution that I want to figure out, it's captured my attention and my interest and my intrigue, so I'm going to keep going through that. That is how you focus an emotion and give it a goal. If someone has an emotion in a level 2 level of awareness where they're searching for a solution, well, they're looking for a solution for a specific reason. They're looking for that solution in various areas. And your headline is going to be like, hey, don't buy webinar software until you read this or until you watch this. And they're like, oh crap, I was about to buy webinar software. I kept asking, what's the best webinar software in this Facebook group? How do I do that? I have to read that now. You capture their interest and attention. Now your video goes into something like, look, you're looking for webinar software. Here's the thing. The webinar software itself usually has the exact same features as every single other one. What you really want is how to capture leads, right? You're using webinars to capture leads, and they're like, oh yeah, totally, that's what I want. Then you say, okay, well, there's only one webinar software that actually allows you to capture leads inside the webinar in a very effective way. Look at all the ways we can do this. It's awesome. That's the headline you take with that. So there's a bunch of different ways to do that, but focusing an emotion and giving it a goal is first understanding the emotion that you're talking to, and then give it an action to take by capturing its attention. Does that make sense, Brian? 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 Sorry, my dog. My dog's attacking my hand and my mouse, so I can't really scroll down and look. Loki, sit. Good. Stay. Stay. Okay. Well, Brian's not responding, so I'm gonna move on. So good to focus more on one emotion or primal desire or fear. So yes, it's better to focus on one if you can. There are going to be instances where you are, you notice that maybe two of them compete directly, or there's multiple that can weave in there. But at the end of the day, one thing that I really want you to avoid in all of your copywriting is getting too verbose or getting too like trying to do everything at once. The rule of one is very, very strong in copy, because if you can do one thing then and really nail that idea, it's better than trying to do four things and not quite nailing any of them. Oh, I know. I have to unmute people, but only if they're... Okay. Okay. Brian said, sorry, I switched to my phone, but I can't reply. I'm listening. That made sense. Okay, cool. Yeah. If you have any other questions, Brian, just hit up this thread and I can unmute you. So, but yeah, to answer your question simply right here, it's best to focus on one if you can. It's possible to focus on multiple, but not to the extent that you should be confusing the copy or just trying to throw crap in there to throw crap in there. Let's see if he has a response. I don't think so. It'll pop up with a notification. So, Grace. Grace, are you on live? Yes, you are. Awesome. Cool. So, your market is senior market, health supplement, primal fears to lose their independence, become dependent on children. Okay. Prime motivator, retain health and independence, quality of life. They're not online very much. They use Facebook occasionally. Research more deeply. Okay. All right. And you're sending feedback to existing customers with a small sample. Okay. So I brought your ads up here as well. But one of the things that I want to discuss is I'm curious on what your age bracket really is. You're selling a brain health supplement. So, all right, guys, this is awesome. So we're about to get really deep into some specifics here. So if you're not paying attention, I would highly recommend that you pay attention. This is going to be the deeper stuff. So Grace, your marketplace, at least from what I'm looking at on this ad, if you're saying 55 to 75, that is not a 55-year-old couple. That is a much, much older couple. So a 55-year-old person, especially nowadays, is probably not going to be drawn to this in the same way that a 75-year-old or an 85-year-old person is going to be drawn to this. I would verify that your target market, or that your market, is actually 55 to 75. That's my very first intuition. I've seen a lot of stuff on here where especially if you're marketing to a slightly older audience, a senior audience, or an advanced boomer audience, then your target market is actually about 12 years older than you thought it was. I don't know why that is, but it just happens to be the case. Like, I have a grandfather who reads Stansberry Associates and financial newsletters and things like that, and he's 81 years old, right? But they think that their target market is 55-year-old men, and it's not, because they've aged out, they're growing up, and they're having a harder time reaching the people who are currently at that age group, and I know that for a fact. So your issue might be, okay, so you know that you're 55 to 65-year-old. Here, I'm going to bring you on live. Do you have a microphone? Do you mind if I unmute you? I'm going to, okay, cool. I'm going to unmute you, Grace. All right, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, awesome. How's it going?
Good, thanks.
Cool. So you said that you know your 55 to 65-year-old bracket have parents with Alzheimer's. So...
Well, yeah, not all of them, certainly, but I have a bunch of people in my circle of friends that that's true for. And they all have heightened awareness about it. And so that's why the age range is, it's not people who are already, 1 foot into the nursing home. It's people that have seen their parents suffer, and they're afraid.
Okay, so you can see how that's already a switch between what you said in the post versus like where that age group is at, right? So like the 75-year-olds have 1 foot in the nursing home, and they're scared about losing their independence and becoming dependent on their children. But the 55-year-olds and 65-year-olds have a different motivation, a different fear. They're still healthy, they're still working probably, but they've seen their parents have Alzheimer's or their family members have Alzheimer's, and now they're getting afraid because they're wearing glasses, or they can't remember things as well, or they lose their car keys, like you said. So you see the difference there?
Yeah, sure.
So the ad itself can't talk to both of those at the same time. And also, a 55-year-old person is not going to refer to themselves as a senior, which means immediately this alienates about 15 years out of your 20-year age bracket. Now, a person who's 70 might refer to themselves as a senior. 75, yeah, now we're getting there. But 69 is probably not going to refer to themselves as a senior. They're, in general, I don't know if you've read any Dan Kennedy, and I don't have any right here, but Dan Kennedy wrote an entire book about marketing to boomers and seniors. And one of the things in that book, and the research verifies, is that marketplace is basically denying the fact that they're aging.
I'm in that marketplace, so I'm pretty good. I'm in complete denial.
Right. And it's fine. And they've got this perception that medical stuff, pills, nutraceuticals, medicine, all of that kind of thing is miraculous nowadays, and it means that they're going to live a lot longer and a lot healthier. And in some cases that's true, so they have that basic belief. And that's kind of what you're dealing with the slightly younger age bracket of what you told me. The 55 to 65-year-olds.
Right.
But they're going to have a completely different view on why they would need a brain supplement. Better memory, greater thinking power, that kind of stuff. So that's the first thing that I'm noticing about these ads, is that their age range is too wide. And so I would either split the market so that you're talking to two of them, the two at the same time, or do something where you double down on the older seniors, and then once that's going really well and you've got revenue from that, then investing in another campaign for the other guys, or vice versa. You can tackle the whichever group. That's the very first thing that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think based on, because I've run a couple of tests already, and that ad right there broke even the first time out, which is pretty good for a first run.
Totally.
I do think that focusing on the older group who have the problem right now, they're clear that they have the problem, and they're highly motivated to not lose their stuff.
Right. And I think this is just intuition. I write a little bit for this marketplace. The effectiveness of the drug is very important, or the supplement in this case, but also the speed of effectiveness. How fast does it work?
Exactly.
So with with a senior who's experiencing memory loss and they're starting to realize, oh crap, the clock is ticking, then if the headline could say seniors rush to get fast-acting new pill that enhances brain function or improves memory. Or a quote from one of your clients that says, my memory is actually better than it was in my 20s. Something like that is going to capture their attention more than something like this, right? Because they've seen headlines that look like this, and your demographic specifically has seen headlines that look like this for 40 years. And so it's not, to them, it's not necessary. It's comfortable in the sense that they understand headlines like this, but it's not necessarily attention capturing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Got it. Yep.
Cool. Now, where did you run this?
I have a media buyer, and they select the markets.
Okay.
They select the markets, so I don't have any input in that. They put it where they know the senior markets really are. Like, Florida. I've gotten orders from Florida.
So like direct mail?
Yeah, these are running in the newspaper. So this first run is a newspaper ad.
Okay. And so this would be like a quarter page or a sidebar type. Okay.
They're half page in small regional newspapers.
All right. Half page newspaper. And now what is the call to action here? Okay. So they have to call you at your 800 number. Interesting. So every single one of them has to call you.
Yes.
Have you ever done a split test on giving them a online buying page?
No.
You should definitely do that. Seniors, maybe they're not surfing the web, but they especially if they see an ad in a newspaper that's extremely authoritative, they're going to have trust in that ad. And if they trust, then they're buying online like crazy. They obviously are very aware of email scams and things like that. But assuming that you have the trust thing figured out already, then I would definitely put an online order page here so that they can go get it online.
I haven't thought of that, but that's possible.
You're reducing the barrier. I mean, yes, your marketplace is one that is more open to calling and ordering over the phone because they've been doing it for their entire lives. But many of them are moving online and purchasing online. Many of them are buying products for their families online, Amazon and stuff like that. They're buying gifts. They're on Facebook and FaceTime so they can talk to their kids and their grandkids. So they are online, but they're just not using the internet in the same way that, say a millennial would use it or a Gen Xer would use it. So I would definitely test that to put an order page on your ad itself. And that's just a few things right off the top of my head. The messaging itself could probably be tweaked and worked on. You said you had a copywriter work on this, right?
No, I wrote it.
Oh, you wrote it. Okay, excellent. Well, it looks like you had a copywriter work on it, so that's a good deal.
Well, well, thanks.
I can go through this in a lot more detail and kind of pick through things and outline and do all that, but the big stuff, especially for everybody else watching, is going to be, the target market split. I would not market this the same way to 55 to 65-year-olds as I would to 65 to 75. And I would also verify that, look at your list of buyers and see what their age is.
Actually, I don't know. I don't have that information. All I really have is the name and the mailing address.
Okay. Trying to think of an expedited way for you to get that data. I can think about it offline, but you're going to want to verify that that your audience is the age that you think they are, because actually verifying their purchase data is going to be very eye-opening. Like I said, I've had several clients and several people I've worked with that are just completely blown away by what the age range of their buyer actually is.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to capture that. I'm not sure how I'm going to capture that.
Okay. We can talk about it offline, like we talked about it earlier. But I think that's going to be one thing. Now going back up so that everybody can kind of benefit from this. The target market itself is one where you dig down to their demographic and psychographic data and really understand what they're going through at that point in their life. The younger audience is obviously watching their older parents decline, and the older audience is worried very much so about going into a nursing home or not being able to function or losing their independence. Primal desires are going to be different, and primal fears are going to be different for both and how they define those. The market level of awareness is going to change. So let's say the more senior audience is going to be more aware of their problems. And so they're going to be, kind of like a level 3 problem aware type person. They might already be looking for ways to improve their brain health, but I also know that that particular market really trusts modern medicine. So if it's a supplement, then you're going to have to get over that barrier of kind of like, this is tested, like you already have with your Stanford stuff and your tested stuff. All of that has to come into play and answer their objections in the right order. So that's going to be important for them. The market sophistication is important too, because we're going to want to look and see what your competition is trying to sell and how, and see if this...
Well, I know how that's going. I know the answer to that one.
Okay. What is
this
that?
market, they have a pretty good market sophistication, and the big players in this space right here, it's 100% magalogs. So
Okay.
they're getting a ton of information. When they order anything, they'll get on the mailing list for these magalogs, and it's a book full of information, and proof and credibility, clinical studies, stuff like that. So people that are in the supplement, the supplement buyer market, they're pretty sophisticated, because magalogs are the deal. I mean, that is the space.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're very expensive to produce. I've got to have a lot more customers before I can justify that.
Right.
That's probably $70,000 market play, and I'm not in that category yet.
Right. Yeah, those are definitely for bigger players, but it's not necessarily the only game in town.
But the targeted list that that you could send to memory buyers, it's a pretty sophisticated group, because they're already getting the competitors' magalogs.
Mm-hmm. So how loyal are they to the individual supplement that they're buying?
That is a question I don't know.
Okay. That's an important question, because if they can be drawn away for some reason, like let's say they're just taking the pill but they're not really getting anything from it, or who knows, right? If they're still reading the advertising, they probably still have a problem.
Yeah, you nailed it. They want results, and they want tangible results quickly. And if they don't see them for whatever reason in the time frame that to meet their expectations, then they'll jump. But I run that same risk too.
Right.
So I'm trying to provide also back-end information saying, it took a little while for your brain to get where it's at, and it's going to take a little while for it to get straightened out.
Yeah.
That just to provide more information that this, there isn't a magic pill that's going to fix your brain chemistry. It's been systematically eroding over the last 70 years.
Right. So I think, especially due to the sophistication level of your marketplace, you can get away with a little bit of explanation that makes sense. In my head, I just saw a part of your ad that says the participants were not instructed to change their diet or exercise habits. They were only told to take their active ingredient for 12 weeks. This is what I call burying the lead. Right here, this could speak to their primal desire, their primal fear, and what they want from this, especially the older audience, right? They don't want to change their diet or their exercise habits. They don't want to completely uproot their lives. They want to take a pill and have it fixed.
Exactly.
So, and then they want it quickly. 12 weeks is quick for these guys.
Yeah.
So 12 years of mental decline in 90 days, that type of thing. But with all of that said, you can also explain the mechanism in a new way that the magalogs can't do, because in order to get the magalog, you know, they have to get it in the mail, they have to read the whole damn thing, they have to get all the information out, and they have to commit to it, right? Versus your medium as a newspaper ad, if that newspaper ad talks about a stunning new mechanism that actually improves their brain health within 12 weeks, and you know, either stops or reverses 12 years of decline, then that could really pull them in. And then you start explaining it. You're like, look, this is how your brain looks. This is how your brain works. This is what the decline of it looks like. You know, so when your brain is deteriorating, your memory is going away, this is actually what is physically happening to your brain. And when you take this supplement, when you take Axidine, then it stops that process of decline. And then once the process is stopped, it starts rebuilding the things that have been lost. And so by explaining it in that kind of down-to-earth but also very specific and scientific way, that's going to immediately key them in on this new mechanism that makes sense, even if that's what your competitors are doing. Like, even if you're selling the same supplement as everyone else, if you're the first person to come up with that and say, look, this is what your brain is doing right now, this is how the supplement stops it, and they've never heard that before, then you're now immediately the authority in the marketplace. Because now they've learned something, they have a new mechanism to grasp on, and they have that new concept to go from.
Yeah, I tried to do that in that proof and credibility. I mean, because in this group, you know, skepticism is very, very high. Proof and credibility is really important, and I tried to do that, which is why the little diagram at the bottom, the two brain scans,
right,
show what happens in the brain.
Right, but
I cannot go beyond about 900 words. Period. I got to get the whole story out in 900 words.
Well, I think, you know, when we look at this in a deeper detail and I do a review on it, then we're going to capture a lot of the information that you already have and rearrange a lot of stuff. But given, and this is what I'm trying to teach everybody else in this course as well, you've got a lot of good information here, but due to the level of sophistication of your marketplace and their specific needs and desires, the information is not presented in a way that allows them to fully comprehend the message, right? If this headline doesn't capture their attention, then they're never going to get down here to the brain scan stuff. If this lead right here doesn't capture their attention, they're not going to get down to the discovery or the clinical research or how to get it. So it truly is a process once you understand what level you're at. And so if they are this sophisticated, you're definitely going to have to like change the way that you're speaking to them versus like a headline like this that they're familiar with versus something that's a little more close to their sophistication level right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Okay.
And I'm right about the speed factor. You know, results in 12 weeks is, you know, that's optimistic that's a good thing. That's a positive thing that people would be curious about.
Yeah, I just know that this marketplace is, I mean, I see my father-in-law and my grandfather-in-law dealing with health issues a lot. And I know that when they go to the doctor, they expect to get a pill and take that pill forever. Like, because it's not something that's meant to cure them, and that just pisses them off and, you know, just like ruins their confidence and ruins their you know, their health. So there's a lot of pain around that we can work with as copywriters to kind of like say, look, there's a better alternative, but there's a lot of factors at play here. But so far, what we talked about, was that helpful?
Yeah, it was. Thank you very much.
Okay, awesome. And we'll go over this a little bit in more detail because I'm excited to talk about it. But for now, I'm going to move on to a couple other questions because we only made it halfway down the page so far.
Yeah, sure.
All right, thank you, Grace. All right, so yeah, Scott, if you have to leave, we're only about halfway down the page right now. Please watch the replay. And if you're at work, then I can prioritize your calls or prioritize your questions. at the very beginning. I've done that before for other people. I just can't do it for everyone, obviously, because, you know, it's kind of impossible to prioritize everybody's. So, Grace, thank you very much. Thank you for coming on live. I think that everybody else, was that helpful to kind of see a look at an ad that exists in the marketplace right now, but needs to be tweaked based on the big four? Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. So the reason that was really powerful in my eyes was that Grace actually put out a really good piece of copy. I thought a copywriter wrote it. She's putting it in the right places. She's savvy. She's sophisticated as a marketer, so she's putting it in newspapers, and she knows how much space she needs. So this is a marketer who's doing a lot of the things right. And the main tweak is by understanding the deeper implications of the marketplace using the big four, then we are going to be able to craft that offer in a new way that actually hits on the things that matter to the marketplace in a bigger way. Right now, I think Grace's ad is appealing to people who are in a more receptive state, but by appealing better to the big four in the right order, it's just going to open up the marketplace. It's going to capture people's attention who weren't captured before. It's going to, you know, expand the marketplace to whatever specific target market she's leaning towards, because we'll be able to speak to that market more specifically and all that kind of stuff. That's why the big four is really important. Like, copy like that looks really good and does get results and break even, but that the kind of research you can do on the big four is what changes things from, you know, effective or producing an ROI or something like that to actually being able to change or dominate the marketplace. So that's why I think it's so important. And thank you, Grace, for being the guinea pig on that one. I appreciate it. So Laura, let's jump in here. More specific, thought of after watching the videos, trying to relate them to a gym client. Okay. How do you know what their primal desires are? Off the top of my head, pride. Okay, so everybody, when you're looking for primal desires, you're not picking a primal desire, you're finding it. Okay? It's in the research. It's in the stuff that you're looking at. You don't decide before doing the research that their primal desire is this, or you don't rack your brain for what you remember. It's something you find, not something you pick. So when you ask questions like, how do you know what they are? Well, you're doing the research. You're doing the thing that nobody likes to do, which is to dig down and look in the forums and, you know, use the stuff that I taught you in Module 1 to really dig down into the target market, their psychographics and demographics. And then, you know, really doing the research that I talk about with primal desire and fears and core needs, because it's going to give you that ability to say, yes, that's what it is, rather than I think that's what it is. And that's the powerful difference. And in this case, what you're asking here, Laura, is, you know, if they have a specific type of desire, then the circumstance would be not to speak to them in the same funnel. You don't. Unless you can find a deep primal desire that every single one of them has, but especially with fitness, it's very, very difficult to speak to a male and a female audience at the exact same time. It just is. It's hard to do that in general for most of marketing unless there's some sort of, you know, non-gendered thing that you're appealing to people for. But by understanding the target market and the demographics, you can speak to people in different ways. Like, women buy things for different reasons, and, you know, they ask different questions, they have different objections than men. That's verifiable scientific fact. So by trying to write copy to both of them, or trying to write copy to a mass market without diving deeply into their primal desires and maybe not hitting one or the other, then it's going to ruin your chances. So, all right, and I've got some questions regarding that. Edie says, what if people don't associate with or communicate with the real underlying pain and they tell you it's only the surface pain? Yeah, we can talk about that, Edie. So you don't ever, in your copy, you're probably never going to call out the primal desire. You're never going to say, hey, you prideful man, or hey, you envious woman, or hey, you wrathful kid, or, you know, whatever. It's never going to be called out in the copy. The understanding of the primal desire is your understanding psychologically of where the client is at and how to talk to them. Think about that conversation again. If you're sitting in a chair and you're talking to someone, you're not going to lean over and say, hey, you look pretty prideful. I think that I can help you achieve more stuff if you buy my thing. That's not the conversation that you're going to have. It's going to be like, you know, you look like a man or woman. You look like a woman who values achievement. I mean, I can see based on what you're wearing and the fact that we're here at this conference that you care about your career and you want to advance, and that's something important to you. But it also looks like you're struggling with being able to advance quickly enough. You see your peers kind of surpassing you in a certain way. And those peers, you know, they don't deserve what they're getting. You know, you're obviously more qualified than they are, and you've gotten better results for your people, but they're improving at a faster rate than you, and you're not really sure. You feel like they have some sort of secret, right? Well, you know, they do have a secret. Let me show you what that secret is. That's the difference. And obviously that was extremely ham-handed. That's not how I would do most things, but that's the difference in understanding. If you understand their primal desire, then you can speak to it in a better way. Deborah asked, how do you explain that to a client? They think their stuff is good for both men and women or some other dual market. Good question. A lot of clients, all clients, think that their product is good for everyone. Every time I asked, especially a newbie client, or, you know, someone who's just entering the marketplace, and I say, who is this product for? Well, they say everyone that has this problem, or everyone in the world, or, you know, something like that. But we all know the reality that that's not true. So I usually twist that around and I say, okay, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who can probably benefit from losing weight. But number one, who do you prefer to work with? And number two, who can get the absolute best results from this? Those are the two questions I ask clients to kind of shift their mind around to starting to think about an ideal market rather than the everybody market. And then I'll start to explain things like levels of awareness, levels of sophistication, target markets, and different things like that, where I can say, look, yes, there's probably 1 million people out there who can benefit from your weight loss advice. However, how often do you really see 1 million people agreeing with each other on the reasons why they do stuff? It's just not feasible. So that's how I usually turn it around. Awareness levels. With this gym, there's obviously a saturated market, but they may not know that this gym in particular exists. Okay. Okay, so for number two, Laura, I would guess that because you have a small base of raving fans, that there would be an opportunity to market this gym to that small base's close friends. That's your level 1 audience, the people who know about you, the people who trust you already. And so there's probably some sort of referral bonus or some sort of referral campaign you can run to get those friends or family members or connections or coworkers for all the people who go to that gym and start bringing those in as leads. That's a good initial strategy because it works quickly and you can run that, you know, seasonally or quarterly or whatever you have to do. And, you know, it kind of expands off of itself in a little bit of a pyramid scheme type way, but, you know, legitimately, not crappily. But it's not truly scalable because, you know, you never know who's going to bring in how many referrals or how serious they're going to be or anything like that, especially with fitness where it takes a few months to really see some results. CrossFit grew kind of like that, but CrossFit also put a huge amount of money into branding, and so you can't really follow their model specifically. But with that in mind, then once you maximize your level 1 audience with that type of referral campaign, you then go into a level 2 where it's your first cold audience, but they're looking for a solution. So what are the solutions they're looking for? You've got people who are joining gyms or maybe are already in a gym, but they're bored, or, you know, they they're tired of only going to the gym by themselves, or they're searching for something new or something different or something that gets them their goals faster or something like that. They're searching for solutions at that level 2 level of awareness, and you need to find out what those solutions are. Like what do they think those solutions are, and then reframe it in the context of joining your gym. So if it's going to be, hey, you're bored with that gym, then are you bored with your current gym? Or, hey, are you looking for something a little bit more fun in your workouts? Or are you looking for a community or, something like that? Or, speaking to those specific solutions that are looking for and then rerouting it to your gym. And then moving up to level 3, which is problem aware, you've got people who are either not joining a gym yet and they have a problem with weight loss, or they have a problem with fitness, or they have a problem with their health or something like that. They're problem oriented, and then you speak to those people with their problems, and then you frame your gym as the solution. So every single level of awareness you move up, you completely shift the message of your marketing, but you always bring it back to the solution of joining the gym. Does that make sense? Are you on? Are you on live, Laura? Laura Hanlon, yes you are. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. I can bring you on live if you want to ask questions about these. You want to do that or no? Because I can answer these next 3, 4. Thank you guys for your patience, by the way. We're an hour and 20 minutes in, and there's a lot of questions here, so I'm trying to hit them as quick as I can, but it's still as thoroughly. All right, so let me bring Laura on. All right, Laura, you are unmuted.
Hello.
Hello, I hear you. Cool.
Hello.
So that all makes sense, right?
Yeah, it does make sense, but when you talk about the different levels, how do you so if I was doing like Facebook ads that led to a funnel, are you just doing a variation for different levels of awareness, or do you pick your
Yes.
awareness?
So tactically speaking, like if you're doing a Facebook ad to a sales funnel to draw these leads in, you can do split tests for various target markets. You can do independent funnels. So, one ad set is going to run to one funnel, another type of ad set is running to another. If your target markets are really, disparate. So if you're targeting men versus women, those are different ways to do it, but I would always operate in the same vertical of awareness while testing those different things at first. So let's say your level 1 guys are, like your raving fans who want to go out and tell their people. Well, then, maybe that funnel is just announcing at your classes that there's, a referral bonus or something like that, or you get like the person who refers the most new people. Like say they refer 10 or more, they refer the most new people, they get a year's worth of a particular protein supplement or something like that, right? There's some sort of incentive. And then that referral incentive will start to bring more people in through level 1, but they have to go somewhere. So maybe it's like, refer people to join this 7-day trial, or refer people to join this free class, or something like that. Sorry, hold on. All right, sorry about that. I think there was a doorbell. But does that make sense as far as the specific verticals?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay, cool. And that would basically just expand to the next level of awareness. So if they're looking for solutions, then you would do different things in Facebook or with funnels for those different types of solutions. And if that sounds really overwhelming, honestly, I would just pick one that sounds like it'd probably be the most successful and try it, or verify it through the research if that's the main problem people are experiencing, rather than trying to build 10 funnels and see what works.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, totally. there's a couple others. So with that in mind, how do you research which words hit them best where it hurts? So let's see. Yeah, so you'll find a lot of this in the research, and we'll talk a little bit more about specific headlines and specific words and how to pick, different things like that. But when you do the research, you're going to start noticing words that they use. So, like if you go to a Reddit forum or if you go to a Facebook group where people are really active in a fitness community or an Instagram post or, something like that where they're active and they're communicating, then you'll find words that they use. I don't know what those are. I haven't done a super deep dive into female weight loss in a while, so I'm not going to try and pretend I know. But the drop a dress size for summer is absolutely overused. I would always steer away with from Cosmo headlines, just because they're like the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
But with that said, though, there are hidden gems around in certain places. Like maybe open up a Cosmo and see what the article says, and see if there's any new words that you don't recognize. Like there's always new phrases, there's always new terms that people are using, or new fads. Like there's the thigh gap fad, or something like that. Those types of things always pop up, and you can find those in the research because that's going to be something that you can key in on your marketing.
Cool.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions on that?
No, just in terms of the research, because I saw you obviously in the video do the research on like other ebooks. Could I like maybe stalk one of our clients and like look at what pages they like on Facebook, and then if they like Joe Wick, the body coach, for example, can I see what people are saying about him, because I know that's all weight loss. Is that
absolutely.
How you, like, dig deeper?
So let me do this real quick, since we are live on the screen. So if I search for someone, what should I search for your target market?
What, something that they like?
Sure.
Like the body coach?
Like that? Body coach? Like
I think it's body coach, like I don't know if it's all one word. Joe Wick's body coach.
Joe, how do I spell that? Joe Wick.
Joe.
Like that?
Yeah, let me.
This isn't him, right?
No, that's not him.
Okay.
Might be body coach. I'll just look.
Let's do this.
It's the body coach, and it's all separate words.
All right, let's see if I can find that. The body coach.
Yeah, him.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, big guy. Cool. Joe Wicks. Okay, so he's got 2.2 million followers, transforming lives. Let's do this. Let's look and see what. This is actually like sophistication research too. But it does give you a good idea of what the target market would be as well. Mm-hmm. So millennial face, millennial style branding. Very clean and dry. Lead in 15 branding. Okay. So speed. Let's talk about let's see transformations. Let's see what people have done here. So 90 days, age range of here. I wish I could find some age ranges of people. Let's go, here we go. 18 to 30. Okay. So this is awesome because you can start to dig into these testimonials and find out words that appeal to them for some reason, right? This cycle was my favorite food-wise. The flexibility of recipes, a lifestyle, loving the changes I see in my body. Fitness has been the best it's ever been. Oh man, I love that I have dogs in the background because it just adds a flavor to these things that most people don't. Achievable, sustainable, definitely not boring, okay?
Yeah.
Starving, eating only leaves, things like that.
Yeah.
I look hot in and out of clothes, right? Things like that. So this is just one way to look at this. Like, love the cycle way more than last. A lot stronger, fitter, packed on some lean muscle, right? Look at the difference in how he, phrased it versus how she phrased it, you know? And this is why men and different are slightly different, right? So for him, it's more about strength, fitness, lean muscle. For women, it seems to be about like body image, but also food, like food related. All my cooking on a Sunday, but he just talks about cooking, not necessarily food, right? He talks about his abs and his tone and all that kind of stuff. So that's how you start to identify the differences here. Like if I went to all male, I'd probably start seeing some similarities in how they speak. Start lift weights, right? Confidence. Food is great, but freedom to choose. Training sessions and easy runs from the gym. Exercise. Let's see. So you see how I'm doing this?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
And this is just one thing. Obviously, fitness and weight loss is an extremely saturated, fragmented marketplace that's difficult to enter and be good in. But when you start to dig down and understand what that's really what they're looking for at various levels, then you can start to speak to their specific needs. This person. So no, not this. So like this guy right here has had his needs met in terms of, what he wants. But the person who looks like him right here might want to pack on more lean muscle because a relatively skinny guy who wants to pack on more muscle, right? Or drop fat, abs are popping, all that kind of stuff. That's how you figure out what people are saying right now.
And can you figure out their primal desire from this kind of research, or would it have to be a lot deeper than that?
You could. It would have to be a little deeper because people are a little more open when they're in pain. But you can look at these testimonials and figure out what they're happy about, like what they've accomplished. Because if they've accomplished something and they're happy enough to leave a testimonial, then they've somehow achieved that primal desire, right? So you could probably find it, like when we're digging in here, what is their primal desire? By Christmas, enjoy the cycle, greater freedom. Not so much right there. A lot stronger, fitter. Let's see. Muscle tone. Varied, keeps you motivated. All right, every step of the journey, correct way to feel my body, recommend, guaranteed results. A little bit. So you can kind of find their primal desire a little bit from these, maybe not their primal fear or their core needs, because you're starting to look at kind of like what they accomplished and why they're happy about that and how it made them happy enough to leave a testimonial. But it's it's not quite at that level yet because they're already beyond the happiness phase of when they've achieved the thing. They're not necessarily in the pain phase of buying something.
Okay.
But then another place that I like to go for research is Reddit, just because people tend to gush on Reddit. And so let's see, I haven't written fitness in a while. Let's go fitness for women. Let's see what happens here. There's 120,000 readers on here. Fitness challenges, quick links to go to, which are probably threads. These are all questions that people are asking or talking or commenting to, and all the ones that have a lot of interaction are floating to the top. So you can start to look at.
Feel that it's your target market or not?
Depending on where you are. Sometimes they'll say their age. Other times they won't, but Reddit tends to be a slightly younger demographic.
Okay.
You can also do that on Facebook pages. So I'm not a member of this one, but Body Coach is one Facebook page, but there's other Facebook groups that you can always go to. I'm wondering. Ashley Corner is one of them, but there's a community. I don't know if there's a group. My wife's in it, but I don't have access to it, so I won't be able to go in there. But if you have access to independent, like fitness groups for men or women or something like that, you can go in there on Facebook and kind of figure out how old they are.
Yeah.
Because I'm showing my screen right now, Jess, so I can't jump into that.
Chris has a question for you.
Okay, cool. So I would go into Facebook groups and I would go to look into other places where people are kind of gushing and feel like it's a safe place, because that's going to allow you to dig into their problems. That's how I would do it.
Okay. Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, and I think, so does that answer your questions, or are you still unclear?
No, that really does. Yeah, I've never done that much research into it before.
Okay, that's usually what I hear from a lot of people. It's just it's good to see like the level of research that a lot of people would go into, or that like copywriters would go into. So cool. All right. Well, if that answers your questions, I'm probably gonna go ahead and meet you off the call and then try and answer these a little bit faster so that we can get done with stuff.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. Facebook Insights is another good way to do that, Cisco. Yes, I use that all the time. Magazine media kits are also excellent. Yeah, the replay is definitely going to be available soon, Daniel. All right, Jan, I'll go and read your questions once we get down to that. Wickoff, fastest and most effective way to determine both market sophistication and market awareness. Okay, so once you've gone through target market, primal desire, primal fear, core needs, and you've got that down, then we're going to start working on awareness. Awareness levels, there's always going to be three, there's going to, not three, I'm sorry, there's always going to be every level of awareness in the marketplace, but there's only going to be one level of sophistication. Here's what I mean by that. The level of awareness is for people who are very, very aware of you. You know, they're in your local circles. They're actively looking for a solution at level 2. They have a problem in level 3. They have a desire in level 4, and they're completely unaware but demographically a fit in level 5. There will always be people in every single one of those, which means you basically need to choose which one you want to target and research. My recommendation for everyone, especially if they're doing copy, is to first identify, if they have a client, what level their client is currently at and who they're talking to and whether or not they're doing that effectively. And if they're not doing it effectively, then optimize where they're currently at, because that's the stuff that you have the best data for and the best option for. So that's the fastest way to go if you have a client or if you have your own product. Look at where you currently are and then optimize that based on what you know about your new research. Once you've done that, then you can start looking at different awareness levels and how those are represented in your marketplace, and also start appealing to those in your marketing. Like we just talked about with Laura, there are different ways to go after different marketplaces, but you don't want to do it all at once because it gets overwhelming. So choose quickly. If your client already has it, optimize that first and then move on. With market sophistication, I would look at your top 10 competitors. If you have 10 direct competitors, you obviously know you're very sophisticated in your marketplace. If you don't have 10, then look for your top direct competitors. These are the people who are selling the exact same thing you're selling, right? And if you're working with a client and they're insistent that their thing is brand new and has never been done before, then go find the indirect competitors who are doing the exact same thing and just say, okay, well, these people are providing the same solution. Then look at those people and start looking at the types of headlines that they're writing. If they're writing headlines like, come buy this now, they're at a level 1, maybe a stage 2 type sophistication. That means they're new to market, or they're trying to jockey for position in a new marketplace. That usually happens when you have a new technology or new app, or maybe a new type of fat loss pill or product or whatever, right? Those are new to market stuff. Then you look at the competition if they're doing like bigger, better headlines, like do this faster, do this better, do this longer, do this more effectively, that kind of thing. That's a stage 2 marketplace. That's someone who has entered into the marketplace and understood that there's competition, is trying to make their stuff better. Or, you can do the same thing and make yours sound better. Not necessarily different, but better than the original. Stage 3 is when you have to be different. It's when you invent a new mechanism that accomplishes the same solution, and all of those headlines are going to say things like, if it's fat loss supplements, it's going to be something like brand new herb discovered in the Amazon jungle that melts fat away, or this brand new exercise way of doing things is going to melt fat off your body in 7 days. Stuff like that. They're identifying a new mechanism or a new reason for you to believe them, and they're talking about that mechanism. Stage 4 is people who are trying to take that mechanism and make it bigger and better. So, Facebook ads for business owners would be a stage 3, because they're teaching how to do a specific type of Facebook ads. But then something like 7-day Facebook ads, or like get 10 leads in 2 days with 10 leads in 24 hours with Facebook ads, or something like that. That's a stage 4. Stage 5 is something we're going to talk about later in the course, where you're more identity focused. But those are the quickest ways to identify them. Go through the competition and look at what their headlines are, and that'll give you an idea of where the market's at and how saturated it is. That's the quickest and most effective way to do it. All right, John, I didn't see a question from you because it's like just not quite there. I also have a question from Chris Huntley. Sent an hour ago to Jesse, but I think I might have shared the, yeah, okay, so I've already got that, Chris. Okay, cool. So we'll go over that in a minute. Let's talk about Richard. Richard, I'm going to give this a really quick once-over. I don't know if you're on the call right now. Timestamp an hour and 40 minutes in. I'm going to give this a really quick once-over. Underground secret society of real men and their stunning girlfriends. An insider and bringing up the natural power from entering inside you. About to show you some types of dating groups I understand, and I'm skeptical, and you've heard all big claims before. Okay. No, you haven't given me a reason to believe this yet. Give me a reason to believe it before you start to say it's going to be different. Because right now I don't trust you. If you're already admitting that I don't trust you, but you haven't given me a reason to trust you yet, at all, even with this headline or this lead. So with the lead that you're trying to do here, there's no trust, and yet you're trying to tell them that they should trust you simply because you told them to. You need a proof element of some sort, if that's the angle that you're going to go. That's pretty much it. That's all I'm going to talk about right here. I know that was quick, but thank you, Edie. Let's answer your question right now. Okay, so you're seeing the difference between selling a thing to having the product or service delivered as stated. I never understood why I'd understand their stories and complaints, because the transformation involved healing dynamics and root stories that they hadn't linked the problems to. Seeing research in this way has definitely delineated the two, solidified in my mind why I need to do the market research. It's different than healing, lead generation. Yes, give me another justification for high prices, research. Okay, intuition builds trust in people and opens their mind to possibilities they hadn't considered. When they go with it, that's where the magic happens. How would you suggest I manage this to keep the magic secrets revealing? Okay, so with Edie specifically, for those who don't understand, Edie is a transformational coach who helps people get past their deeper psychological blocks and obstacles in order to, kind of move forward in life and create a better life. And she's very good at it. I actually know that Edie practices what she preaches and is excellent at her job. So with that understanding, and she's not a charlatan, I'm going to operate from a different perspective here, because when you are dealing with transformation in people and you are not a licensed psychologist or or therapist or something like that, then it's the equivalent of selling alternative medicine, alternative health against a doctor. So you're dealing with transformation. You're dealing with people's stuff, people's issues, but you're doing it in an alternative way, which means you're dealing with an alternative audience. And that alternative audience has certain stipulations that they believe, that they don't believe, that they hate, that they love, all that kind of stuff. So understanding that as a target market is going to be imperative to crafting an offer that makes sense to them. In Edie's case specifically, she actually doesn't have a lead generation problem. She can generate leads because she can get the current people who've worked with her to say, Edie is amazing, get on the phone with her. But the problem is she's having trouble converting people into a sale, selling at higher ticket, and doing it consistently enough to build a true business out of it. So she can transform people and make them feel happy about themselves, but the other side is that, the people who are showing up really aren't oftentimes the right people. Holy crap, Edie, I'm not going to read that. So that's the main goal here and what we're trying to look at with marketing. The issue is that with Edie's marketplace, she needs to generate the right type of client. And the right type of client is actually more than likely searching for something in a problem-focused state of mind, or is looking for a solution in a different way, rather than someone who's simply floating through life and then sees an individual who can help them out of their miasma. And so the people who are floating through life are the people who, they hear an offer to get on the phone with Edie for free and have their life figured out, but they will never pay for Edie's time to do the same thing, which means they don't actually value it at all. It's more like when you go on the internet and read a free horoscope. They don't truly value the insight that Edie would bring to their lives, because they don't genuinely have a problem yet that they want to solve. They're desire aware. They're super high on the awareness scale, as in they're just not ready to take any decisions yet. But that's the type of people that she's attracting, and this is endemic with most coaches. Coaches like to help people, and they think that if they help people for free, then people will pay them. But that's not how it works. People pay people because they want to deal with a problem or achieve a solution or achieve a result of some sort. With that said, Edie needs to now focus on, and I'm talking about you in the third person, Edie. I know you're on here live, so forgive me. So you need to focus on actually speaking to the people who legitimately have problems that they want to solve. And now the question is, who are those people, and where are they, and why are they searching for the problems, and what kind of problems do they want to solve? In your case, that's the type of market research that you need to do. It's your magic, your stuff that you do for people doesn't matter until they actually get on the phone with you after they paid you money to do your stuff. You're selling the transformation. You're not putting the transformation in front of them and then trying to sell them something afterward. You're selling the actual transformation. And I know this sounds really vague to everybody listening, but hopefully Edie's getting it, because the target market that you've targeted so far, given how you've promoted your services, has not been the right target market at all. And so the first thing that you need to do is research a target market that you really want to work with, like we talked about in our call a few weeks ago. And then you really need to narrow down what those problems are and how you're going to solve them and how you're going to speak to them, given their primal desire and primal fear. So let me work through this real quick. Okay. The very first thing here, I'm struggling with messaging because of the wide scope of my work. Functional medicine, psychotherapy, intuitive, subconscious pain, unlocking all open healing, all this kind of stuff. Here's the deal. Nobody cares about this except you. All right? Nobody cares about this except you. They care about having their problem solved. And whether it's functional medicine, psychotherapy, intuitiveness, subconscious pain, whatever magic that you do with them, that's what they care about. They care about the solution that you're going to provide to them, not the mechanism on how you deliver it. So the delivery for them is secondary. It's the transformation that they're buying in the first place. So they don't understand the pain they experience isn't their own. They take it out on. Okay, so I'm just reading this, guys. Sorry, I got quiet. No, you don't need to talk about the delivery at all, especially for stuff like this. I just read through this entire thing, and the reason you're having trouble synthesizing it into one thing is because you can't synthesize it into one thing. It's too much. There's too much crap here. You could call it medicine. You could call it healing. You can call it transformation. But that's, you can't. So instead of trying to and then pitching that, you're coming at it from the wrong angle. You're coming at it from, this is what I have and love me for it. The real angle is you have a problem that I can solve. And then when the person looks at you and says, you're right, I do have a problem and you can solve it, why should I believe you? You say, there's lots of reasons you should believe me. I'm an absolute expert. Look at all of these people who have said that my stuff is amazing. And they're like, wow, a lot of people have said that. Yeah, let's work together. And then they give you money and then you do your stuff. It's not about convincing them due to all this information that you have, because that is irrelevant to them. A man who's dealing with issues doesn't care about a woman who's dealing with issues because of her grandma. It's not relevant. So you have to approach it from the confidence of saying, I can solve your problem, and then dealing with the conversation that happens from there, rather than coming at it from, these are all the things that I can do for everyone, somebody please love me. That's not the angle that you want to take with this. And most coaches do the exact same thing. They say, I'm an expert, I can provide this service, and then they hang out their shingle and they wait for people to come to them. That is trying to reach a level 5 aware audience, the most completely unaware, demographically coherent audience, and some that aren't, with no messaging whatsoever, versus talking to a level 1 or level 2 awareness that has specific problems or knows about you specifically, and yet needs to be told that you can help solve their specific thing. Like one of the pieces that I did to promote this mentorship is the core objection. Is this right for me? Right? You don't need to break into a thesis on describing why it's right for them. All you need to do is say, it is right for you. I've helped people just like you. I have a ton of expertise in this area. And if you want the transformation, then let's get to work. That's as simple as it needs to be. Okay? Evie? You're overcomplicating it, and you're coming at it from the wrong angle. Cool. All right, Scott. Again, thank you guys for being on here for 2 freaking hours. I appreciate that. Everybody is giving me a lot of their time and attention. We're almost done. I've got 3 more things to go through, and Jan, I think we might talk about this offline. So, holy cow. All right, Scott, target market. Don't. If a target market is trying to reach out to multiple types of people simultaneously, don't. Make the marketing independent to each target market. I know that sounds like a simplistic answer, but that is the answer. So analytics softwares, your client pays for that. If they don't have it's their data, not yours. Primal desire. We already talked about multiple primal desires. Ideally, just pick one. Well, actually, scratch that. Don't pick one, find one. Application of multiple primal desires and fears in a sales letter. So there was only one primal desire in my sales letter. I used a lot of different mechanisms to hit that primal desire, but there was only one. That primal desire was confidence. And if you're going to put confidence into a specific bucket, like in the deadly, the 7 deadly sins bucket, it was probably around, I've never actually done that. It was, I'd have to say pride. Pride because there was a mismatch between a person's perceived ability and their actual ability. So that break in identity was one that caused them a lot of psychological pain, because they thought they knew a lot of stuff because they'd read a lot of copywriting books and done a lot of stuff, but they haven't actually proved it to themselves, and so there was a lack of confidence and an identity issue. So that was what was in my sales letter, and I just used a lot of different mechanisms to talk about that. Okay. Sloth, ease. So here's the thing. With sloth and ease, it depends. If one target market genuinely thinks that things need to be easy, that is a core belief they have. Like, there's a certain market in internet marketing that will not stop believing that there isn't a magic bullet. Or that, there's a certain fat loss thing that are just looking for the right pill. There's a certain segment of the target market that if you appeal to them with anything other than this is the easiest, most effective way to do things, then they're not going to listen to you. But there also is another segment of the marketplace that want ease, but what they want instead of ease is clarity. And for them, that equals ease. Clarity is something that a lot of people are lacking in this world because there's too much information around everywhere. They want to be able to trust that the thing that they're looking at is the thing they need to do. And if they can trust that, then even if it requires discomfort and hard work, if they trust the system enough to actually do it, it creates that sense of ease in their mind because they now no longer have to worry about everything else. That's something that I appeal to in my sales letter, but like I said, I'm not specifically targeting sloth. I'm targeting pride and achievement. It's much easier to sell difficult stuff if you're targeting pride and achievement because people are willing to work hard for it. AWAI is definitely a sloth-based marketing. Ease of stuff, easy stuff. It's opportunity seeking. A lot of business opportunity stuff in general is sloth-based, not achievement-based, which is what a lot of people confuse. Let's see. I'm not going to go review this just because I think that we're running out of time here. You guys have already been on for 2 hours. So nice guys is an egoic title that a lot of angry young men have given to themselves. I'm a nice guy, or the friend zone, or things like that. It's an angry egoic title. It doesn't always reflect demographically the same way unless you're talking about age. There does tend to be some trends on age. Psychographically, though, they tend to hang out in the same spot. So it's possible that your nice guy demographic is going to be the same, but it's also a heavily marketed to market because they're emotionally manipulatable into buying whatever it is that helps them assuage their pain. So that is something that you could consider speaking to them on. I don't personally write for dating, and so I have very little knowledge of the target market beyond very high level stuff. And so I couldn't really tell you what the hyper niche would be to go down into. Thanks, Mary. I appreciate you being on here. Everybody else who's on, I really appreciate your time. This has been a long one. So on 4 ways to reinforce a desire, print ad, typically pick one product. Only hit that. Sales letter might hit all of them. Yeah, the answer are it depends. You want to continuously reinforce the main desire, but there are reasons that you want to bring other desires into it. The only difference is that you really don't want to get sprawling and get off message. That's why I don't encourage people to put multiple desires into their sales piece. Even if you miss a few things, having one core desire that you're talking to in a sales piece is going to be better than trying to do multiple and missing the core. I don't know. I'd have to go back through the video. I haven't looked at it in a while. Yeah, so level 4 awareness versus level 3 awareness. Level 3 awareness means that they have a problem. They're aware of that problem. Now, that problem might be, it might be different things in their mind. Maybe their pants don't fit anymore if they're in fat loss. Maybe every time they go out to a bar, they get this cold, mean look from all the women that they're attracted to. Maybe, if they're in business and all the leads coming at them right now are just super unqualified, as in they have no money and they're just wasting their time, and that's their problem, right? That is the thing that they're experiencing that is painful. And it's painful enough that they are very aware of that pain. However, they're not at the point yet to go and look for solutions. They're just thinking about the pain all day long. That's what is in their mind. That's what, keeps them up at night, all that kind of stuff. That's the pain. Level 4 is desire aware, which means for the fat guy, it's he understands that his belly is getting bigger and maybe his pants don't fit quite right. But it's not at the point where his belt buckle is cutting into the bottom of his belly, or that he's starting to have to lift up his fat to wash himself. It's not at that point yet. So he's not quite at that point of having a really common pain. He's just aware that he would like to lose weight eventually. Or with the guy with dating, maybe he just came out of a long relationship and he's getting back into dating and he wants to date more people, but he's scared to, and he hasn't gone out to the bar yet, and he knows that when he goes out he's just going to be completely rusty and get rejected, but he hasn't gone out yet, so he doesn't have that core desire. That's the difference. You start to see how very quickly a sales letter can take someone from one of these levels of awareness and move them into an action step, but it's important to understand where they're at in the beginning when you talk to them, because if you don't, then you're going to miss the mark. Does that make sense? That makes sense, Scott? I don't know if Scott is on right now. Actually, I think he's off. So hopefully that answers your question, Scott. A couple questions. Let's talk about this offline. And because I know this is related to what we were speaking about via private message, so let's just talk about this offline, okay? Chris. Yes. Stop at 30 minutes. Here's the reason why. 30 minutes is a drill. It's a conditioning drill. It has nothing to do with the completion of the piece. It has everything to do with writing the copy, understanding the copy, feeling how he's writing it and why. And honestly, if you start from the top, which everybody does, you're getting the most important part of the copy anyway, which is the lead, the headline, and the subheads and all that kind of stuff that captures you into there. 30 minutes is a number because I don't want it to be too overwhelming, but I also want it to condition you to write the copy every single day. It doesn't matter that it's not done. You probably won't finish most of them. Both. So Module 1, if we understood the 4 pillars, even if we scribble copy on a napkin, prospects would buy from us. Some professional copywriters have to rewrite their sales page multiple times. Yes, so it's both. If a copywriter understands and gets the 4 pillars right, then they could sell on a napkin. But if they don't get it right, then they have to keep rewriting it over and over and over again. You would be very surprised how many top-level copywriters, professional copywriters, do not understand the power behind the 4 pillars, because they do their research in their head. They think they've got enough, but it's a new market or it's a new product or it's something new, and they just don't have the system behind their thinking necessary to get that full expanse. That's why they have to continue to rewrite this stuff, because they don't really have any verification. Even if you've gone through and done the big 4 to the highest extent possible, you're still going to have to test. But by having it down and written down and verified, you're at a much higher level of success than if you're not. Let's see. You would talk to multiple desires. And we'll talk about this later because this is a longer topic, but you sell life insurance. Life insurance is a prevention-based product, and there is a specific way to sell prevention-based products that is different from pain-based products. You target overweight and unhealthy people for high-risk life insurance. Assume their primal desire is gluttony or sloth. No, absolutely not. So don't assume anything. Go research it. What is there? I have found that fat people, like morbidly obese people, are neither gluttonous nor lazy for the most part. We have a very skewed view. Usually they spend all day, every day, thinking about how fat they are and, you know, hating themselves for how fat they are, and trying every single diet under the sun and trying every single exercise regimen under the sun and dealing with the health problems of being fat all day, every day. And so they're extremely hardworking, but they're also like literally weighed down by the fact that they're overweight and obese. So their decision making goes out, and then all of a sudden they binge on McDonald's at the end of the day because they want to make themselves feel better or something to that effect. It's way deeper than just assuming that they're gluttonous or slothful. That's it. If you wrote to that, then you would insult them. Is it wrong to use level 5 awareness strategies to level 2 awareness prospects? Yes. I would consider so for number 5, if the headline itself is going to accomplish the goal that you want it to at that awareness level, which is to capture the intended target market's attention in their current search, then I would say that 97% of filmmakers make this mistake, is a level 2 awareness headline, because they're looking for solutions to their problem, and if they are told that they're about to make a mistake in their search for a solution, then they're going to immediately pay attention. I like to use that headline a lot for level 2 aware people, because they're more keen on picking up on making mistakes if they're already trying to do something versus if they're not trying to do something. If someone hasn't taken any action yet, they're not worried about making a mistake. Say we're appealing to the primal desire or pride in our assignment. Okay, so I've already answered that a lot in this call, but the short answer is try to stick to one primal desire, and if you must go into other primal desires, don't let it take away from the core message. All right, Anthony, what's up, Superman? Question: with so much modeling and swiping in the copywriting industry, what constitutes copyright infringement? Oh God. If we're using a hook or headline from another sales page or similar pricing graphic, where's the line typically drawn legally? Okay, great question. Copyright law is very difficult to enforce. First off, you have to prove that your thing was first, somehow. Then you have to prove that that person knowingly stole it. And then you have to prove that that person stole it to the extent that they're going to profit from it, and also potentially did receive profit from it. And this is not legal advice, by the way, guys. This is my copywriter understanding of copyright law. So it's not legal advice at all. But once you've done all of that, then somebody has to actually take the case and prosecute it. So if you swipe someone's headline and use it verbatim, the worst, I mean, they could hit you with a copyright or a cease and desist or something like that, but most often they're just going to shame you publicly. That's what I've had to do when people swiped my copy, specifically, like basically stole my entire idea for it. And that shaming publicly is only relevant if your target market is inside the community that is currently shaming you. That's the pragmatic, completely sociopathic answer. Like, if you're selling to personal trainers and you swipe somebody else who's selling to personal trainers and you copy their shit verbatim, and that person then goes into that personal trainer community and says, somebody stole my stuff, look at them, look at how bad they are, then you're going to lose clients. But if you swipe someone's fitness page who's appealing to 40-year-old men, and that company says, wow, you swiped my stuff, then they're going to go talk to their business owner friends and say, look, that person swiped my stuff, rather than their actual 40-year-old audience. So it's kind of a moral thing. Also, I believe it means that there's less effectiveness to the copy itself if you're straight up swiping. But if you take it and modify it and use the principles behind it and the Big Four stuff that you learn, then it could be very effective. If you take like a strong idea or a strong flow that seems to be getting great response, and then you modify it to the extent that you know your target market, or, which is even better, you take a successful model from one industry and take it to another industry that has never seen it before. That's extremely powerful. That would be the way to go after it. All right, John, last one, and then we're done, because this has gone for 2 hours and 10 minutes. How much time should we be focusing on each step of the process of Big Four: sales, copy, edit, and final copy? All right, that's answered in the first video. 2 days of research, 1 day of writing the first draft, 2 days of editing. And if you're going to break up your copy into non-weekly things in terms of assignments, I would spend 1/3 of your time researching, 1/3 of your time editing, and 1/3 of your time writing. Always be heavy on research, though. So if you got to go 2/3 research and then 1/3 writing and editing, do that. First sales letter ever, writing a sales letter, do we include all 12 points? Sure. Honestly, with all 12 points, it's probably going to be just, it'll help you hit that 2,000 word limit, because most people never write 2,000 words. And on top of that, we're going to be spending a lot of time on the leads and the headlines and the angles and the hooks and all that kind of stuff, rather than the individual points of the copy. So don't focus too hard on that, but make sure you hit the 2,000 word limit. Crafting a sales letter, how do you discover the direction of the hook and weave your story around it? Make a compelling act. That's what the whole course is for. So yeah, I laugh. I'm not making fun of you, John. The whole course is about that. Understanding the Big Four at a super deep level, understanding the marketing medium that you're talking to, understanding storytelling, understanding the different lead generation mechanisms that are coming in. It's so important to do that. All of that. So that's what the entire course is about. Does that make sense? I don't know if John, yeah, you're on. So hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense, John? Have to let me know. All right, and I got a buzz on my phone. Yeah, Edie, we could talk about that. And cool. All right, guys. Thank you for your time and attention today. That was it. That was a long Q&A. I appreciate everybody's questions, And if you have additional questions, post them in the group. Save them for next week's Q&A. We have a hot seat on Monday to go over your assignments. Those assignments are due on Friday at midnight Pacific time. So if you haven't started writing yet, I would suggest trying to get your first draft out today or tomorrow and then edit the thing. Thank you so much for the questions. I appreciate it. These are good, deep questions, and they're valuable, and I appreciate your time being on for 2 hours. But this will get easier. We're going to keep going over this stuff. It's not stuff that that you just deal with in Module 1 and then forget about. It's critical to the whole thing that we're doing here. So thank you again. Everybody have a wonderful day, and I will see you inside the Facebook group and then Monday at noon. Have a good one, everyone.